Hi guys, welcome back to Too Cool for Middle School. I'm really excited about this video because I'm going to start something new for 2021. So at the end of each month, I will do a little wrap-up video for you with all of the books that I read in this month, and then also just kind of like some random favorites. I think this will be a fun way to just kind of tie everything together, like reading and teaching and beauty and ethical fashion and all that kind of stuff. So I have a little bit of everything to share with you today. So before we get into the books, one of my favorite things from January was the inauguration, and of course Amanda Gorman's poem was my very favorite part of the inauguration. I just thought it was so beautiful. I thought she was so beautiful, and we're going to be studying that poem for decades to come. English teachers, we already know that's going to be on our syllabus forever and ever. So I wanted to do something that kind of like incorporated the poem and also supported girls who want to write. So this was my favorite line from the poem. It's because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. That line, especially as a history teacher, just grabbed me from the instant that I heard it. So I've made these little stickers. You can put them on your laptop or your water bottle, and the proceeds are going to a group called Girls Right Now. So I'll be making a donation to them in order to help, develop and give resources to this next generation of writers who I just really think are making an enormous difference in the world. So you can grab these stickers on my website. I will link them below. Speaking of writers, now let's get into books. I read 8 books in the month of January, and we have a bit of a range. A few things that are a little different for me, some things that are just like right on brand. So let's take a look. The first book of 2021 that I read is Trail of Lightning by Rebecca Roanhorse. So I'm working on, and this is going to take a while, I've been working on it for a long time, it's going to be a little while before it's done, but I'm working on this fantasy lit circle unit for my 8th graders. Fantasy tends to be the genre that they want to read anyway, that they read, like entire series of, and I think that we can do a lot with fantasy and help us look at ways that we can reimagine the future. So I was trying to read, just like a really diverse collection of fantasy books. So this one is supposed to be set in like a futuristic Navajo reservation. It's like a dystopian America, and there are also monsters and magic and stuff like that. The book itself is pretty good. It's pretty interesting. About halfway through, I knew I wasn't going to use it for students. I think sometimes we just tend to think that like fantasy is always geared towards young adults, but I really don't think this one is. I think this is just more for adults. So I'm not going to be using it in my class. But then I posted it on Instagram, and one thing I love about Instagram is we get to crowdsource like all the information that everybody knows about authors and books and everything. So apparently Rebecca Roanhorse, though she is native, she is not Navajo, and apparently not everyone is thrilled with the depictions that she put into this book, and it's just a little bit more complicated than like, oh, a diverse book, an own voices book, because it's really not. Just because she's native doesn't mean that, this is her tribe. So there's just a little bit more to it. I don't think it's like everyone's trying to cancel her as a writer or anything, but already it wasn't one that I was going to use in my class, and it's one that you might just want to like do a little bit of research on before you read it or use it or whatever. But I mean, overall it's a well-written, interesting story. The next book that I read was a cookbook. I don't think I have ever shared a cookbook on my channel before, I'm pretty sure. This is Vegetable Kingdom by Bryant Terry. Every January, my husband and I do something called a Daniel fast, where you basically just eat vegan, so there's no bread, meat, or sweets. So I wanted to get a cookbook to give me some new ideas. You kind of just like get in a rut, like what are we gonna eat today? As you can see, there were quite a few recipes that I've tabbed. This is a cookbook for like real chefs. For example, okay, I wanted to make this one. The pictures are beautiful. I wanted to make this warm butter bean salad with roasted bell peppers. Let's see, but the lima beans, you don't use canned ones, you have to soak them overnight in kosher salt. So this is for like real chefs. Like you gotta go to Whole Foods to get your ingredients and like plan at least a day ahead what you're gonna make. So this is a little bit beyond like where my skill is, but I aspire to cook this way. And when I say that I read this cookbook, I mean I read all of it. So he does give a lot of background information about all of the different recipes. You learn a lot about African cooking and Caribbean cooking because he incorporates a lot of those recipes and ingredients into these dishes. And also my favorite thing is that he provides a playlist. Here's the playlist page. He gives you all the songs ahead of time, and then for each recipe he recommends a song to cook to. So it's really, really cool. I think this is a really cool cookbook, and I'm gonna keep it, and I'm gonna try to cook maybe like a recipe per month. But for me, this just requires a lot of planning ahead and shopping and doing things differently than I normally do. It just takes a little bit more time to cook this way, but I think this book is really cool overall. The next book that I read was The Mothers by Brit Bennett. You might have heard of Brit Bennett last year because her book The Vanishing Half got a lot of attention. I loved The Vanishing Half as well. She wrote this one first, actually, so I wanted to go back and pick up her first novel. This one is absolutely incredible. It reminds me a little bit of my favorite book from 2020, We Ride Upon Sticks, because it's written from the point of view of just like all of the church mothers. Like they are just the narrators. It's set in a suburb of San Diego, and it all surrounds the stories of this black church. That's where we have the church mothers, but then it's about like the pastor and his family and his son and another family and their daughter. And it just gets into issues of relationships and abortion and honesty and affairs, suicide, and, you know, parents abandoning their children. And I just feel like it's done so incredibly well. I didn't want this book to end. I just wanted to keep reading it and finding out more about what happened to all of the characters. It's just so beautifully done, and forever, anything that Brit Bennett writes, I'm going to purchase and read immediately. She's definitely one of my favorite authors, and another just cool thing about reading this book was that it reminded me of my years at Friendship Baptist Church, and I could just kind of picture everything. I was just kind of picturing like that church campus every time they went to the actual church. And there is such a special community in black churches, and to have one set in like Southern California as opposed to like the South is kind of less common in books, I think, but it's, you know, what I can actually picture. So for me, I just thought this was a really interesting and engaging and beautiful book to read. The next one I read is Tristan Strong Punches a Hole in the Sky by Kwame Mbalia. This one's pretty long. I of course was reading this one as I was looking for more books to include in our fantasy lit circles, and this one I am going to include. I think this one is really great for middle school. I'll be using it for 8th grade. I would say that kids younger than 8th grade could read this book, but it is pretty long, so you know, I think this is like appropriately challenging for an 8th grader too. It's set like in the modern day, kind of in our world, but then Tristan kind of punches through this tree and ends up in a different world, and it's ruled by and inhabited by characters from popular African American myths that you might know about already, like the fables of Brer Fox and Brer Rabbit and John Henry, and then also characters from African myths that I hadn't really heard about before. So it blends together a lot of that. You learn much more about these fables and myths than you knew before, probably, and the story itself is just, it's an adventure. There's a lot of flying and escaping, and it's really funny. There's Gum Baby, who's kind of like a tar baby. She's probably most people's favorite character. She's hilarious. She really like breaks all of the tension, and it's published by, you know, Rick Riordan. Like, he has all of these kind of mythical books now, like under his publishing or whatever. So it definitely has that same feel of one of those Rick Riordan, you know, adventure myth tales, you know, that's kind of meant for like middle grades. So I think a lot of my students are gonna like this if they haven't read it already, and I'm excited to use it for literature circles. The next book that I read is called Interior Chinatown by Charles Yu, and I saw this one on Instagram. I can't remember where, but it just sounded really interesting. I read it in a day. I read it in like an evening. It was just so engaging for me. It's written mostly, that's kind of hard to see, I know, but it's written mostly as like a script. So the main character lives like in Chinatown of like the Hollywood area, and everyone in his life is like a character in this script in his mind, but they all also like work in Hollywood, like as extras, or, you know, just like generic Asian people that they have to put in like TV shows and movies. Plus, that's just kind of like the way that he sees the world. It's really interesting. Like it's very different. There's a lot of metaphor and symbolism and everything, but then it's real also. It's a little bit hard to explain, but there's this tension between him as a Chinese man and the Black community. And so like at the beginning of the book, you're kind of like, oh, this is a little weird and maybe like wrong. Like he's in this TV show with these two main characters, a white lady and a Black guy, and they're like, you know, like police detectives. And then was he a victim? No, he kind of like graduates from a victim to somebody that's like helping them solve the crime. But the script and in real life, he doesn't really fit into this like black-white binary. There's not really a place for him. So by the end of the book, he explores that a lot more, and there's a lot of discussion about like the way that Asians do or do not fit into this black-white binary and why that is. And I just thought it was like very smart and very well written. So this is actually one that I would put in my classroom too. It's a little more like cerebral, like it's not really meant for young adults, but it was just so good. So I'm excited to see what more people think about this one. Next, I read Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This is her third novel after The Hate U Give and On the Come Up. So Concrete Rose is like a prequel to The Hate U Give. It follows Maverick, who is Star's dad, and then Lisa also, who stars mom, and like Carlos is in it. Like you'll recognize a lot of the characters if you've read The Hate U Give. It's very Angie Thomas. Like this is just really indicative of like her writing style and the things that she likes to write about. I'm actually not going to put this one in my middle school library. I think this one is awesome for high school, and The Hate U Give is in my middle school library, but I think this one is just more appropriate for high schoolers. It centers a lot around teen pregnancy and how that happens. I just think that high schoolers, like, sure, they could read about this, but you know, like if a 6th grader picked this one up from my bookshelf, that might not be great. So read it, see what you think, see what you're comfortable with, you know, consider your own population of students and what they need and what kind of stories they need reflected. But overall, very good. Another great one from Angie Thomas. The next book that I read was Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. This was the January Amory's Book Club pick, and by the time I upload this video, this will have already happened, but she asked me to do an Instagram live with her and talk about this book on Saturday, so I think she saves them, so you can go to Amory's Instagram account and see our live where we talk about this book. So I'm very excited to do that tomorrow. So honored to be asked and get to talk about books with her on her Instagram. So if you're not familiar with this one, it was written in the 80s by Octavia Butler. She's from here in Pasadena. She's one of the first Black female like sci-fi writers, kind of dystopian writers. This was another one that I was like considering for our fantasy lit circles, but again, like this is not really meant for kids, and actually a lot of adults said that this one is just like too triggering for them right now, which I can see. This is set in LA in like, it starts in 2024, so it's kind of in like the 2020s, and the climate is warming, crime is rising, inflation is up, there's a drug epidemic, just all kinds of things that we are seeing now, you know, Octavia Butler was predicting in the 80s. And the main character is a teenage girl named Lauren Olamina, and you've got to read it to find out what happens. I'm trying to think of like anything I can say without really giving away the plot, but she's trying to survive in this world. Also really rethinking what she believes. Her dad is a pastor of a church, and she has different views about what she thinks you should believe in. So it's really interesting. You know, it's a classic at this point, and very well written, and just like a really interesting one to think about. So I also bought the Parable of the Talents. So I'm planning on reading that one in February. So we can talk about that one next month. The final book that I read in January is Finish the Fight. And this is about the brave and revolutionary women who fought for the right to vote. This one's a little bit shorter. It is beautiful. Like if you look at the pages on the inside, it's just absolutely gorgeous. This is such a fun way to read about history. And what I love about this book is that the topic is the 19th Amendment and, you know, the fight for women's suffrage. And it's done in an inclusive and diverse way, just automatically. So, you know, this book isn't called like the diverse women who fought for the right to vote. This is just the women who fought for our right to vote. And they were a very diverse group of women. There were white women, there were black women, Chinese women, Latinx women, Native American women. They all had an impact on this process. And so that's what I really appreciated about this book, is that that's just the premise. Like there were a lot of women who were involved in this fight, so let's just talk about all of them. So Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony are in this book, but not nearly as much as they normally are, because there's just so many other people to talk about. My personal favorite chapter is this one, Frances Ellen Watkins Harper. I had not heard of her before, but oh my goodness, some of her quotes. Let me just give you a couple here. I do not believe that giving the woman the ballot is immediately going to cure all of the ills of life. You white women speak here of rights. I speak of wrongs. How about this one? We are all bound up together in one great bundle of humanity, and society cannot trample on the weakest and feeblest of its members without receiving the curse in its own soul. That's one of the best things I've ever read in my life. How about one more? I do not believe that white women are dewdrops just exhaled from the skies. I think that like men, they may be divided into three classes: the good, the bad, and the indifferent. The good would vote according to their convictions and principles, the bad as dictated by prejudice or malice, and the indifferent will vote on the strongest side of the question with the winning party. The wisdom and relevance of this book is just great. So I highly recommend this for history teachers and for students. Like we really need to get our students reading stuff like this. This is amazing. Okay, so those are all of the books. I also just wanted to share with you a couple of my favorite like lifestyle type things. I've gotten so far away from that recently on my channel, but my favorite purchase of January by far is this shirt, and it's a little bit hard to see like how I'm sitting here, but let me explain this a little bit. This is from Vita Capsule, which is one of just the best ethical brands out there. They are pricey, yes, but this is like 3 shirts in one. So you see that it's, you know, like a turtleneck, a really nice turtleneck sweater. Oh my gosh, it just feels so good. See if I can show you this. It's like dolman sleeves, so I love this style. It's a tunic length, which, sorry, that part's hard to see. Okay, so we have this. You can also remove this. There are buttons on the inside, so if you just want to wear a regular black sweater, you can also do that. And look at how cute the back is. Look at these buttons all along the back. I just think that's so cute. It fits so well. And then the other thing you can do with this, so let's say you take off the cowl neck part, you can flip this around and it's a cardigan. So you've got the buttons, you could wear it buttoned all the way up, buttoned halfway, you could wear it open. It's just so versatile. So if you're looking to do more of like a capsule wardrobe, this gives you 3 looks in one, 4 looks in one, really. You can do so much with this. So of course it's a little bit pricey, but it's so well made and you can just do so much with it. So I just thought this was like the most perfect sweater, and it's very comfortable and I love it. It's raining right now, so I'm just like inside in my cozy little sweater. I believe I have some kind of a discount code, so I will leave that down below for you. And I definitely recommend just like putting this on your wish list. I thought I would also just do like my little January makeup collection. This is it. Here's what we've been doing. So I haven't worn foundation in quite a while just because putting a mask over foundation for me is just like immediate breakout. So I haven't really been wearing much face makeup, but I've just been putting a little bit of concealer under my eyes. This is the L'Oreal True Match. And then I like to fill in my eyebrows. This is the Goof Proof brow pencil from Benefit. So I just do a little bit of that. And then I've just really been liking this L'Oreal Infallible eyeshadow in Bronzed Taupe. This is like a YouTuber classic. Like, people have been talking about this forever in like YouTube tutorials. It's really pretty. It looks like this. So I just use a fluffy brush and just kind of sweep that over my eyelids. It's just kind of pretty and reflective. And then I don't know what it is with all of my mascaras, but they have all been transferring like crazy. So I had all these really nice mascaras, but I've just been throwing everything out. This is another L'Oreal Voluminous Superstar Mascara. So what I like is that it has this like primer on one end. So you do the white and then you go over it with this side. So then you have the black. So it does, you know, give your lashes quite a bit of a lift. So that's what I do for my eyes, you know, just fill in the brows, do a little bit of eye makeup. And then this is a Julep lip balm in Canyon Rose. And these were all like on sale at Target. So I think that they might be being discontinued because they were like way discounted. So, you know, just do a little bit of lip balm to keep my lips hydrated. And that's all we've been doing for now. So it's pretty quick to get ready in the morning. I can tell you a non-favorite also. I got that like, what is it called? Revel Dip powder nail stuff. I hate it. I've tried like 5 different brands of the powder gel. I hate it. It's blah. I don't like it at all. I can't wait to take this off. I think it looks awful. I don't care to get better at the process. I hate it. I hate the feeling of the powder. Never again. I'm all done with it. If I have any nail favorites next month, I'll let you know. Oh, I should also show you this. This is my favorite Christmas gift from my sister-in-law. She got me like a custom Starbucks tumbler. It says my name and it has the Virgin Islands symbol right here. It has a map of the Virgin Islands and a quote from Rothschild Francis. "The mills of the gods grind slowly, but they grind exceedingly fine," by Rothschild Francis. So I've been drinking my water from this. I was so excited. I love the glitter. Oh, and that reminds me, I have some work to do for the it's like a Virgin Islands Historical Society that I've been working with. I love them, and I love actually using my degree I paid so much for. Using my expertise, so much fun. So the last couple of things, TV shows wise, my favorite from January was The Flight Attendant. That was my thing that I just watch like when I'm finally done teaching, before I go get Jensen. I just sit on the couch and watch my show. I'm done with it now, but I liked that one. Teaching resources wise, for my 8th grade English classes, we have been doing my Dear Evan Hansen unit. It's so wonderful. I love listening to all the songs. I love the conversations that I've been having with my 8th graders, and it's just been really great. So I have a whole video on how to teach that if you're interested. And then lastly, one other resource to share with you, I'm doing Ancient China with my 6th grade history classes, and I'll leave the link down below, but on the PBS website they have a China timeline. It's really hard to find like actual ancient China resources. Like you can find stuff about like the Great Wall and the Ming Dynasty and stuff, but like for California history anyway, that's 7th grade. So it's really hard to find like Shang Dynasty and even before that resources for 6th grade. But this was one of the better things that I have found, and it was really helpful for me this year. So I will link that down below for you fellow ancient history teachers, because I know we struggle to find good resources. All right, well, this was very fun. I'm already looking forward to a February wrap up. For me, this is so fun to get to talk about like books and a couple teaching resources, a couple fashion things, makeup things. I love it. So don't forget about these really cool stickers so we can make a big donation to Girls Right Now and just have these amazing words from Amanda Gorman at our fingertips. I hope you have a wonderful February. I have hope for February. I'm hoping that, you know, we'll get more of the vaccine out, we'll start to see some positive changes. You know, I'm feeling hopeful right now. So thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.